Hi everybody, Shawn back with the Sci-Fi Model Guy, and we're here with Chapter 5 of the U.S.S. Enterprise 1701-C build from AMT. And before I go any further, if you're doing a YouTube video or planning a channel and you're recording your intros, make sure you hit record on your camera before you start talking for 3 minutes in a really hot and sweltering garage. Just a little tip, something I just picked up. So with that being out of the way, I'm going to talk about the video here. You can see below the screen here, I've got the rear section of the ship lit up, and I wanted to kind of bring this out. For one, I want to start showing people where I am actually at with the build before we go on. And then the second one is, if you are following along with me, I want you to know I do have a pretty bad light leak here with these chiller grills on both sides. It's not something I can't fix, but if you're following along with me and you get to this point, just make sure you don't glue your nacelles together if you're at this point. And in fact, I may not even glue these on here because they're sitting on here real nice. And that way, if something does happen in the future, something blows out, because there's a lot going on in these nacelles, I could just pop it off and do it. And I'm not afraid of it going anywhere. I'm not going to be flying the ship or playing with it. So just a little heads up there. So for this video here, folks, it's cut into 3 sections, and the first one is we're just going through the saucer section, finishing up the wiring and the lighting and everything and talking about that. And then we're going to go on to the boring out of the channels for the wiring here on the aft section. So there's that, and I am happy that I chose the method that I did. So that's working. We just had this little light leak problem to deal with, but we'll solve it. We'll get through it. And if you notice here, I'm doing this from a different angle. Hopefully the lighting's a little bit better. And in the coming weeks behind me here, I'm going to build some shelves to have the other ships that I've done and wire them up and have them kind of on for a nicer looking display. So we'll see how that works. Plus I get them out of the box. And I have some other cool things up there, like my Legos and neat little things like that I like to do in my spare time. Okay, folks, that's it. A couple other things to wrap up, some housekeeping. I will be posting a bonus video in the next day or two. Excuse me. Pardon me. I will be posting a bonus video in the next day or two, which is from this section of the build. It's basically a really long working session of me doing the lighting and just kind of talking what was going on in my head. I just hit record and I went with it. So that'll be a bonus video. And so for those of you who haven't lit models before, you'll find it useful. For people who have done a lot of lighting and you're finding that familiar, you can just go ahead and skip that video, even though I would like you to watch it. But yeah, it will be clearly labeled in there that it's a bonus video. And other than that, I am going to increase the frequency of the uploads for this series to 2 a week until we get through with it. And the reason being is I have a lot of other projects I want to get to, and this is turning out to be a pretty long series. So I want to make sure and get that out. It feels like it's been forever. I mean, I've grown a beard and my hair's gotten long since I've done this one. So we're trying to speed it up for you. And then other than that, I am working on a little secret project I've mentioned a couple times, and I'm really anxious to share that with you. And it's just like the Enterprise 1701 build that we did. I have to get that out to the recipient before we can launch the video on YouTube. I don't want to spoil the surprise. So that's it, everyone. I'm going to get out of this hot garage. Happy modeling. And if you haven't yet, please, and you're enjoying these videos, please hit a subscribe down there. I would really appreciate it. And we'll help the channel grow and keep bringing more cool videos, hopefully, to you in the future. Happy modeling, everyone. Okay, everyone, we're picking it up where we left off, and all of the lights have been installed. So I've got red and green installed in the nacelles. Sorry, up here I got everything in front of me here. So we've got red and green lights installed in the nacelles in the front of them, and white lights in the back of the nacelles. Now I did decide to put a white light on both the top and bottom of the nacelle. So I know, pardon all the wires hanging around here. And here's just one one nacelle. So the green light, so we have a green light here, and there's going to be a white light here coming out, and as well as down here. I just kind of found the center and drilled a hole. So I want two lights back here. Originally, just the nacelles have a little dome on the top for one. I just wanted one on the bottom because I think the Enterprise D has top and bottom lights, and I kind of like that. I wanted a little bit more animation or things kind of blinking on and off on the ship, especially since this yellow experiment back here on the saucer kind of failed. So all the lights are installed, and we got a lot to talk about in this section of the video. Excuse me. We'll take it kind of left to right. So I've got the hot glue gun here warming up, and that is for this. And this is the navigation board. It's these little things. I get this from Tenna Controls. I think you can get them from HCA ModelWorks, but I order them directly from Tenna Controls. And just disclaimer, they are not a sponsor of the channel, and they're not asking me or paying me to say anything, but really, really good company. I really like working with them. And they send the board with this set of instructions that shows you how to wire everything. So there's a diagram here. I won't go into that here. We'll talk about it when we start wiring it together. And then there is a jumper. Actually, they come with two jumpers for some reason. But there's these little jumper things here, and depending on where you put this little blue guy, which is called a jumper, for those of you who don't know, depending on which two pegs you put it on, it changes the flashing of what they call the strobe lights. So and the timing, I think the timing of the regular navigation lights were just a steady on and off, and then there's the strobe light effect, which is a faster blink. So you've got here, you can do original series, so TOS, the original series timing, a double flash timing, which I think was from the Enterprise D in the movie. It's like a flash. So the strobe light was two quick blinks. The Enterprise D and E timing for this one, Enterprise Refit, Reliant Voyager, and the Enterprise Grissom. I don't know. I think that's just from the... Oh, that's what needs two. Okay, that's why there are two. I never even noticed that. So it comes with a default, like, the Enterprise Grissom timing. Don't know what that is. I can look it up. I'm going to be going with this Enterprise C. I'm going to be doing the double flash timing, at least to try start with. And we'll see how that works. And I think I'll like that. That's why I want the strobe lights to do a double flash, and then other navigation lights do a regular on-off. And to remind everyone, the white lights on here are going to be the only things blinking. I'm leaving the red and the green kind of alone. And look at that, I got a little paint on me. Okay, so there's a strobe light here. And this is the back of the bridge. So there's a strobe light that's coming here. And I also drilled for a strobe light here. So there's going to be double flashes there. And then underneath the fantail, I guess you would call the aft section, I drilled a hole there for a light. So this is actually plugged in right now, I think. So I'm going to turn it on and show you. No, I can't turn it on yet because the negative side came off. Again, these wires are so thin. Okay, I'm just going to turn this on. So you can see here, there's the light coming through on the top, and then the bottom is not coming out. I don't think it's on. That's why it's not on, because the wire is over here. This will not be a problem, by the way, folks, once I get this connected to the standard wire 30 gauge that we use. I think it's 30. This is like -4. Or whatever. I think the higher the number, the skinnier the wire. So it's like 1,000 gauge. I have no idea what these are, but they're very, very thin. even hard to kind of grab onto. So when I use these, it's really hard to get these alligator clips to even hold on to them. I gotta kind of wrap. There you go. So there's a light there and a light here. And so this one's just going to be a steady regular blink, and this is a double blink. And the way to get those to blink in those desired frequencies is to set the jumper to where we want. So, and then also the wires connect. So we'll talk about that. I was going to start talking about how to wire this thing. It's very, very simple. All right, so let's start here with, first of all, I'm going to give these wires a quick strip with my tool, just so I don't have to do it while it's connected to the model. And this is a really cool, I really like this thing. It really beats any other wire stripper I've ever used. My cousin gave it to me, and you can dial in the thickness of the wire, and then you just do that, and it takes this thing off perfectly and cleanly without stripping the wire at all, as long as you dial it in right. Okay, so I just pulled that off. The main power that's going to go with all the other power of the ship. The negative is the ground, and then these yellow and white wires are controlling the blinks. So, and now I'm going to test it also. Let me turn off the demonstration there. Got a holy mess here, guys. So be prepared for this. There's a lot of lights on this model, a lot of wires. So when you're doing an extensive wiring job like this for a model that has so many lights, and you want it like with the Enterprise C and the Enterprise D and E, there's so much to illuminate, you're going to end up getting spaghetti. I think I've mentioned before, I'm not perfect. I mean, this could probably do it a little bit better, but I'm okay with it. And for me, this is actually pretty good. So what am I doing here? I've got the navigation board, and I'm going to go with this double flash timing there. So it's the second set of jumpers, and I've got my little tweezers here, and I'm just going to pull these off. There we go. And I'm just putting one, so it's one jumper on that second set. I'm holding it up for the camera to see. There we go. And that's that. We'll take this and I'll put that up here on the shelf to, maybe I want to try the Grissom timing. So, excuse me. Get a little drink of ice water. Okay. So now that I've got the jumper set, and I've got it marked here where we're going to place it. So how do we place the nav board? Is with the hot glue, which is melted all over my solder. Hot glue is the way to go, everyone. It won't damage the circuit board. I don't think it conducts electricity. It's very easy to put on, and it doesn't burn the circuit or anything. So I'm going to kind of just get it in, but it is very stringy. So got to get this down really quickly. There we go. And it sets pretty fast. Let me unplug. That's all we need from the glue. I didn't even have to squeeze the trigger. It was just basically kind of oozing out on its own because it started melting the stick. Pardon me. I'm just putting the glue gun away, guys. Give me 1 second. Just wrapping the cord and putting it somewhere where this hot tip won't cause any damage. Okay. Okay, that's it. The nav board is installed. Well, why don't we take a quick thing and why don't we try to see if this sucker can work? We'll do it with the white up here, a little extra glue. So pardon the dull, the pause here, the kind of crickety noise or silence that we're going through. I'm just wiring this together. So I'm going to try to do this and talk through it a little bit. Oh, hold on a second. I had a brush with a little black paint on here that it's part of this section. Let me just get the thinner on it so it doesn't cake up on me on the brush. Okay. My apologies. Okay, so what do I have here? I've got the red, the green, and the white nav lights are all the power is coming together with these three resistors. This is the pre-resistors. Remember, these lights have the resistors installed ahead of time, which I really like. So those are all connected, and these just go to the main power of the circuit board, and then eventually this red wire, the main power for the board, just goes right to the main power for the model, and on the same main power as the regular lights, all the other lights that we have. So there's one source, one power cord. Hopefully you guys can see this. Let me just check the camera. Okay. So we've got the power hooked up. Now, the negative from the board gets connected to the negative on your power supply. So this also will connect to the same negative that all the other lights are connected to. The trick is to get these things to blink and have this nav board work is the negative wires from the lights that you want to have flash or be part of, controlled by that board, need to be connected to these guys. So let's see here. Again, this is real time. I didn't plan this out, and I want you all to see the wiring of the board here. So bear with me. Let's see. The yellow, I always have to remind myself here. The yellow is for, it's really hard to see here. So the yellow wire, which is here coming off the board, goes to the strobe. The green or white, in this case we have a white wire, goes to the nav. Okay. So navigation, strobe is fast blinking, nav is slow blinking. So for these, for this purpose, for the white, on the saucer section is going to be connected to the yellow wire, because we want this to, no, I apologize, white wire. White wire is going to be receiving the negative from here. And real important that you, when you're doing this, everyone, especially the first time, even the 10th time, test it. Okay, so this should work. I'm going to turn it on. Okay, now I'll turn off the light here. Now, as you can see, I do have a little light leaking, and that's fine. It's, you see the blinking. So that is the rate at which this will be blinking. I'm fine with that. That looks good to me. So let's do the strobe. Let's see if this was the strobe light. We'll see what that rate looks like. And this is also cool, so you can kind of gauge what you want, which setting you want. Okay, so here's the double flash. And I kind of like that. So that double flash is going to be what I have here on the back of the bridge. So I do like that. I like both the rate of the regular ones. Let's connect it to white. Nice and steady, on and off. And back to the strobe. If I don't drop it. Okay. So that works. So now what the trick to do, the trick is to make sure that I get all the wiring done right. So the positive, negative from these red and green are just going to go to the regular power like everything else. Same with these, just regular power. Then the white light in the front is going to go to the yellow wire. No, I'm sorry, the white wire. I got it. And then the back here is going to go to the yellow one. What I also need to do is make extensions, very long extensions, of these yellow and white wires also to come through the neck into the back of the ship so that they can illuminate these two lights that we put in, as well as the nav lights on the back of here. So we've got to make extensions for both the yellow and the white coming down, and I'm going to have to label them. So I do have a white wire here. So I do have a third color. I don't have a fourth color. So what I'm going to end up having to do is when I make these extensions to go through to the back of the ship, I'm going to have to put a piece of tape on it and flag it, or somehow kind of do it to call it out for myself and not lose it. I mean, if I do lose the flag, that's fine. You just test it until you find the right one. But usually just a little piece of tape with a mark on it is fine. So, and then of course there's, tying all the power up to all these. So we have a lot of wiring work to do. And this is both the fun part and the frustrating part and the annoying part, depending on your level of expertise and patience, all rolled into one. However, during your experience with this, you'll probably experience all those emotions, and you're going to look at this and go, what did I get myself into? This is so confusing, but it's a lot easier to do if you have a plan. So you want to lay everything out, get the wires tapped down as best as you possibly can, understand what you're doing, and then just go slow and always test. And then after, it's a little confusing, and if you are confused, you just step away for a little while. And what is this? This is glue or something. Get off of there. Yeah, so it can get a little bit hairy, and I'm searching for the right word, and I do apologize. I can't quite get it. It's a little bit overwhelming at times if you're new to it. And even right now, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Probably because I'm trying to think about it and explain it at the same time, and also trying to be entertaining. Kind of hard, but hopefully you're coming along getting all this. And if not, you can rewind it and watch it again. Or if you have questions about this, anyone, please just throw them in the comment section. Okay, so where to now? What do we do now? Now, what I want to do is go through and just kind of paint over these guys here. And I did go ahead and decide to use my brush. I know before I was just basically taking the paint and just dabbing it and letting it get everywhere, but I'm going to do both. So here's what I just wanted to show this to you all. So I'm putting a little paint there on the solar res that I had put over these lights that I installed last night. Here's the white. I'm just putting a little a little drop or two over each one, and then I'm going to come through with the brush and smear it around. So originally, like I said, I was doing this, but then I used the brush earlier and I got a much nicer spread. So I'm just kind of, I wanted to demonstrate that, and I'm just working it around and kind of pushing it to make sure it gets into the little, all the bits and nooks and crannies. And then, of course, we're going to test these before we lock them up, of course. There might be an extra little dot of paint we'll miss. I know we did miss one there in the front, so I'll go over that again. Just put another coat. So once this is all done and squared away, then of course we're going to have to build the little stand for the other lights that we're going to have to put in. We're going to be putting some bigger white lights here for the front of the Bussard collectors, I think. I'm going to close it up, and this might be enough to illuminate it, but I don't think so. I think, no, actually on the second, I'll probably need them. I'm just thinking out loud. But you never know. We could try it. I mean, if it works without putting more lights in, I'm all for that. It's difficult to put these things in sometimes. So, again, I'm just giving this a little extra of a smear. And I'm going to put a little bit more here in the front. Some drop. Nothing too fancy. I might as well just hit these lights again. Then what I'll do is set these aside, take them over to the other part of my workbench and just hit them with the hairdryer a little bit. Should dry pretty fast. This is a Vallejo model color. I think it's Vallejo. Yes. I used to use Vallejo exclusively, and then I just, for some reason, switched to Tamiya. And I can't give you an exact reason why. I think is when I was just doing a model, and I had the Tamiya paints, and they had the color I needed, and I used them, and I think they're a little harder to set up because you have to thin them, and Vallejo comes with these kinds of model air, and supposedly you don't need to thin them down as much, or even not at all. But I just had a couple bad experiences with it, and I know it was just me. It was not the paint. It was me, or it was my airbrush or something. I ended up clogging an airbrush really badly, and before I got this Iwata. And when I got the Iwata, the first model I did was just using Tamiya, so I just stuck with them, and I stick with them, and not because they're better, but because they work. And that's it. I know there are some people that exclusively use Vallejo. There's people that exclusively use Tamiya. There's people that use everything under the sun, including enamel. So, my opinion, there's no right one. There's no best one. It's what you are comfortable doing. So there's my spiel on paint brands. I just happen to stick with Tamiya, and it always works with me. I'm standing up here, and so if you hear my voice changing, and I just realized I didn't have the microphone plugged in. Let's plug that in. Okay, it's probably better volume. I'm not going to go back and record that whole thing, though. No way. Already did too much work. So where were we? Yes, paint. So you use what you like. You use what works for you. And if you find one that works for you, then go with it. I don't think there is a better or a worse one. And I'm sure there are people will debate me on that. And that's fine. They're both good brands. I just happen to use Tamiya for now. I might change one day. Okay, enough of that. Okay, all the paint's in there. And I've got these wired up. So what I'm going to do is I'll do this off camera. I'm going to get my glue here and I'm going to secure these wires because they're a big holy mess. And then just make the extensions here because this is going to be the only one here that is going to be connected to the nav board. And then I need to make an extension wire for these, drill the hole through the saucer section, get everything wired together in a big weird contraption mess, test everything, and then we'll be on to the next steps, which will be assembling the model and painting the sub-assemblies, and then once we paint them, of course, scraping out the window. So there's a lot to do here, but she's going to look gorgeous at the end. All right. Okay, folks, so that's it for now. I'm going to go ahead and clean up some of the wiring here and tack it down, secure it, lock it down, and it will make everything else a lot easier to work with other than having dangly wires getting caught on things. So we'll be back. We're going to do all that off camera, and then we'll come back and take a look and see what she looks like. Okay, guys, it's been a few days here since I've come into the shop to work on the model, so having a little bit hard time remembering where we left off, so I do apologize. But with that, I do know that we wanted to talk a little bit more about the lighting. So I have gone ahead today and I did install the little lifters, which is basically just pieces of sprue, to lift a light up to the middle of the nacelle so that when we turn it on and it lights the Bussard collector, it's right there in the middle. So just again, with some spare pieces of the plastic sprue that holds the parts, I would just keep those handy. And I went ahead and cut those, not with the nippers, but with just an old pair of wire cutters, because these are quite expensive and I didn't want to ruin them or use them if I'm just cutting some of this. And it's also, tends to be a thicker, harder, and this would work, but again, I don't want to dull my nice nippers if I can help it. So regular wire cutters did the trick. It doesn't have to be perfect, even the same length or anything like that. So just want to point out, so again, the lighting on this is a little bit difficult. It gets a little cramped in here because we've got a lot going on. We have the string of 6 LEDs here that is going to just illuminate the entire assembly for the blue chiller grills. We've got the light here at the tip of the nacelle to light the Bussard collector, and then we have got the red and green lights here for starboard and port, and then we have these 2 lights on the back of each nacelle for the navigation, strobe light. So quite a bit going on here. Pretty much all the lights except for these back ones, these 4 here. All the lights, the tips of the nacelles here, the red and green and the LED are all just positive power to the regular power from the model as well as the negative power. The blinking lights, the nav lights. Now, I'm going to keep saying this over and over because it is hard, and you're going to have to just basically get experience to do these to really understand it. So there's probably a simpler way if I just make a small video. But anyway, I'm rambling. Sorry. So with any of the lights, all the lights in the whole ship, every single one of them, the positive wires are connected all together. They all go to one wire, one source of power. The negative wires are what's different. So for the lights we're going to have flashing, those negative wires go to a different offshoot negative off of the nav board that we already talked about in the saucer. So hopefully that's making sense. If not, I am sorry. It is hard. We have a lot going on in this model, so hopefully you're following along. And maybe I'll just do a diagram or something like that at the end if I can remember. Okay, so everything's wired up. I got the sprues on here. I wired up these little 0805 white SMDs and tested them out. And oh, that was a loud noise. Paint tin, paint thinner, stuff like that is settling in the can because the temperature is changing in here. So you're going to hear that every now and then. Where was I? So, okay, mounted the sprues, mounted the little light on here, glued that with some CA glue, and that's fine. And then I connected all of the positive wires together. So this nacelle is actually connected, and there's a lot of spaghetti here. So when we put them together, there's going to be a little bit of maneuvering going on. And when you put them together, you kind of shove everything in and close it. I may use some CA glue to kind of take care of some of the spaghetti going on, but for now I'm leaving it how it is. So everything's done with this, with the exception of drilling a couple holes. So I do need to drill a hole here, and this is where the fittings go into the ship. So on this one, I'm going to have to make sure to not drill through that little nub there. So I'll just do them off to the side. So that'll just allow the wires to come out. And just like the saucer section, the saucer actually has 4 wires coming out of it. These here are going to have 3 wires coming out. I give 3. A positive and negative for all the lights, and then the negative for the nav lights here that we're going to be blinking. So when I drill the hole through here, I have to make sure to remember 3 wires are going to be going through there. So let's put that aside. And then let's talk here about the back end section, the tail section, aft section. This here, we're going to have to dig a channel through this plastic for the wires to fit in there, because this is a very flush piece. There's no room in between here. They go perfectly flat together. So if we had wires sitting there, you would see a little bit of a bump, and it would be really unpleasant looking, and you could break the model, and I just don't want to do that. So we're going to dig a kind of a channel, a reservoir, a ditch for them. So that has to go through the nacelle struts, I guess you would call them here, all the way down. Excuse me, let me open it. So they're going to go drill a trench here, go down this way, and then they're going to, this side is going to go this way, and they're going to meet in the middle, and then we'll do one, oops, sorry, this backwards. This is the aft. I'm so sorry. So down here, meet in the middle, and then go up this way to come out, and then that will go into the secondary hull from back this way. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. And then the other challenge is once you get these wires and you get them, you get these things assembled and the wires are coming out, then the challenge is feeding the wire down here, getting it situated there, and then gluing it properly so that they sit down on there. On my first model that I did of this, that's where I really struggled. So I'm hoping that since then I have learned quite a bit, and it won't be so hard. But I'm a little bit concerned how that's going to go. So we'll make sure to document that properly and talk about it, because hopefully some of you are out there doing this with me. All right. So with that, let's put these things off to the side here. I'm going to get my safety glasses. Just these little guys. Let me check the. Okay. Let me zoom out a little bit. I don't want to be too much. There we go. Okay. So I've got the Dremel, and this is kind of just a little, I don't even know what you call this bit, but there's a little round ball on there, and that's what I use to dig out. So I'm going to turn it on, and I'll start with the regular side here, remembering that this is the back, and I think I'll just drill the hole toward the back end of the nacelle. So what I'll do is I'll try to approximate it. How about I get a little marker? How's that? Again, thinking on the fly here. So I've lined this up pretty much, the back end, and I'm just going to put a little, there we go, nice little purple. You can see that in there, right there. So that's where I'll know to drill. And of course I'll make the channel plenty big enough. Plenty big enough? Big enough. I'll make it big enough. Okay. Here we go. Now this is going to take a number of passes. You don't want to do it too high of speed, and you also don't want to let the Dremel sit there too long in any one spot. Okay. I was screaming over there. So I've just basically marked out a little line of a path starting from the dot that I gave it down there. And what I was trying to say, and then decided to turn this off and talk about it, is you don't want to sit there and leave this thing while it's turning on one specific part of it for any length of time. You will end up melting the plastic, or you'll be boring a hole right through the plastic, and you don't want to do that. You don't want a hole coming out the other side. So there's that to contend with, and you just don't want anything melting and making it ugly. You want a nice clean channel. So this is going to take a while. Let's see here. Let me get that pen. So I'll just draw a line here. It doesn't have to be perfect. No one's ever going to see this. And then we'll draw a line. So this one, now here's the notch for the nacelle, and there's a matching notch there. So I don't want to drill into that because that's going to actually help hold the piece together. So sticking with the philosophy, I'll do it toward the back. Let's see here. I'll turn it around this way, so that way and that way. Okay. So there's the notch where it holds, and I'll do it in the back of the piece, right about there. Hopefully you can see it. Okay. Good enough. Okay. Move these fellas out of the way. And then here, there's my mark. It's hard to see over this piece here. More or less straight line. Okay. So that does that. And then we'll of course have one channel going this way toward the bow of the ship into the secondary hull. Alrighty. Okay, let's keep going a little bit. And I'm not going to record this entire process here. I'm going to just do a few passes and get it to where I hopefully think you have the idea of what we're trying to do, and then we'll come back and look at the finished product. A little higher. Okay. I've got it down pretty good. And the only way to test it is to test it. So let's get some wire here. And if you notice, I did make this pretty wide. Don't worry about how wide you're making it. What I mean is make it wider than you think you need, because 3 wires, even though they're small, you don't want to have any room for doubt there. And plus, you're going to be putting a little bit of glue in here to lay them in. So that glue, even though it's there, does add a little bit of thickness back into it. So I'm just holding it down and into this little trench that I made here. If I can get it to hold still. It still needs to get a bit deeper yet. And there you can also, of course, drill on the other side. And here, what I may end up doing is you can kind of see this pattern here. Of these pieces, I can kind of use that as a guide and follow it, because they do match on this side. So I can and I kind of did that already, where I just followed that. So maybe I'll just go ahead and do that, of drill on both pieces, so that way I can make it a little deeper. So what I'll do here is just drill it a little bit, make it a little wider. Okay. Yeah, I think that'll be a good strategy. And I don't know if you can see it, but I can. I can see these little pieces through the plastic here. Let me get up on the... Yeah, you can see it on the camera here if it'll focus. So right there, I'll go right along that line, which is this line here. So I'll just draw the layout. Again, making it a little bit wider even than I was originally planning, to account for any offset that might happen. And then this was pretty much a continuous angle, and I'm avoiding that piece there. And we'll hold it up here. Sorry about this. Yeah, it's about right. So we'll make this a little bit wider there. And of course, wider. Again, it's nice that we can do this because there are no lights back here. It's just a flush piece. So, okay, that's it for this drilling out segment. I'm going to continue to do my work, and then we'll come back and look at how it is afterward. See you in a couple seconds. All right, folks. So the channeling is all done. It probably took me about 10 or 15 minutes, not too long at all. And as we talked about, I did go ahead and followed that little line here from where these two things meet, because I could see through that, and I made it extra wide. So again, there's going to be 3 wires, so I made it plenty wide. And then what I did in the middle part where they meet, I made it double wide, because there's going to be 3 wires from each side. So a total of 6 wires are going to be coming out of this thing. And then I just also made sure to dig a little bit extra out here on where where the struts meet to make sure the wires have a nice clean entry point in there. And then, and that's it. So a couple of just little things I want to mention here. Number one is I'm very glad I was wearing the safety goggles, because as you can see here, this is not dandruff or skin. This is little bits of plastic that were flying all over the place when I used this, because this just literally digging the plastic out. Probably also should have been wearing a face mask, like a gardener's mask or something, to not breathe them in, the little pieces. So that's my bad right there. I should have done that. And a lot of times people don't think of safety when you're building a model, because they're just little models. But always, folks, please remember to wear your proper safety equipment. And so that's today's public service announcement there. Okay, so it's done, and the other part I also knurled out a little bit extra here for the wires to come out. One thing I did discover, though, in testing it, so I did mention that we were going to be using some glue to hold down these wires. I don't think that's going to be necessary, because I tried tape. And tape actually worked pretty well. It's very, very thin. The glue of this holding it together, that these wires are not going to be shifting around or anything. So what I did was to test, I'll just do a redo here of what I did before. So once I get them all locked down, you line them up, put a little bit of tape there to hold it, and then you just go up to the next area and put a little bit of tape there. And it's super, super thin, and it held it in there just fine. And then when I did the test of putting the pieces of plastic together, it worked out just wonderfully. So, of course, you don't want to layer too much tape on top of each other, but if you can get it down, I could probably cut these into thin strips, just enough to hold the wires down while I move to the next section. So there we go. Let me just get another piece here. And this is just demonstration. Obviously, I'm going to be wiring other bits there. Let me just hold it there. So I'll just put this on top there. And as you can see, I'll bring it up to the camera. I'm holding it together, and it's nice and flush. The wire's coming out nicely here. And this, again, the nacelle's going to be covering that, so we're not going to see this little, that bit that I chunked out of there. And then, of course, in the front, nice, plenty of room here for these wires to come out. This even has a little bit of wiggle room there. So that worked out wonderfully. And we'll have the same situation over here. And then with the tape holding the wire down, it worked out fine. It's not going to go anywhere. And so I'm going to use that method. I'm not going to even bother gluing it down. We'll just, we'll put the nacelles on and work the wire in there, put it down, and we'll go for it. So that's about it. Still thinking about how I'm going to wire it. I might just do the bottom parts in the nacelle first, put the wire through, and then close it up this way on top of there. I think that's probably what I'll do, instead of gluing this together. And hopefully that was all on camera. And then worrying about it. I think that's what I did last time. So, okay, again, enough talking to myself. We will cover that when we get to it. And with that, that's pretty much it. I think we're almost done wiring this thing. The next steps are going to be putting the sub-assemblies together, meaning the secondary hull, put that together, put the nacelles this section together with the cells, and then obviously the saucer section, which I'll grab over here. And change the light. And we'll be doing this. This is all ready to go. The saucer section is all wired up, and we did show that earlier. So there's all the wires coming out of there, and it's just a matter of gluing this together and then painting it, and that's going to be a nice fun adventure. So what we're going to do with this build, we're going to glue these sub-assemblies together. So the saucer section, glue, paint. There's going to be a lot of painting, a lot of masking. This one's going to be tough. It's a very, very detailed model, especially with the paint designs that we're going to be doing. Paint that sub-assembly, this sub-assembly, and three. So 3 major sub-assemblies there, and then it all comes together. With that, that's just that's the channeling of the wiring, and we're pretty good, guys. We're moving along there. Sorry, I'm babbling a little bit again. It's been a few days, and I'm a little bit tired. So we'll talk to you soon.